welcome to the Aid Station. I'm Chris Robb, and today very excited to be heading over to Hong Kong. I think we've had one or two editions out of Hong Kong, but we've got a fantastic conversation coming up today where we meet Janet Ng, who's the president of ITRA, the International Trail Running Association. Janet wears a number of hats. She's also the founder and race director of the Hong Kong 100, and we're going to certainly hear more about that in the conversation. Janet, wonderful to see you. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks, Chris, for inviting me to your show.
Yeah, really looking forward to this conversation. It's often we have very varied conversations, but to have someone who kind of wears these two hats where you've got a perspective as an event organizer and a founder and the challenges of having started up something, but then you've got this kind of global perspective in terms of helping, participants and trail run organizers across the road, across the world, But why don't we start with a little bit of your background? You started off as a lawyer and you started running about 20 years ago, from what I understand, but no better than to hear the story from you yourself.
Yes, so Chris, I was born and brought up in Hong Kong, and I was educated here in Hong Kong, and afterwards went to the UK. So when I was in the UK, I attended a school which is an international school with students from 60 different countries. So I mentioned that because that's kind of really shaped my outlook and what I like to do, wanting to connect with people from around the world. And after my education, I came back to Hong Kong. And as you mentioned, I worked as a corporate finance lawyer. And that was the time when I started picking up trail running as really an antidote to this massively stressful corporate life. And so during weekends, I'll be out in the mountains with friends, and it's very sociable. And it also got me to explore all these hidden gems, hidden secrets of Hong Kong that growing up, I actually didn't really see that much of. So I got really hooked into trail running. And as you mentioned, for the last 20 years or so, I have been practicing trail running. In 2011, and that time, actually in 2010, my husband and I, we went to Ultra Trail Australia to do the 100-kilometer event in the Blue Mountains. And then after that, we just thought, whoa, this place is so beautiful. But yet, Hong Kong is pretty too. Maybe we should just organize an event back home. And then we just thought that because Hong Kong didn't really have a 100-kilometer foot race for individuals, we have a very long established team event, but not one that you can just go and challenge yourself. So we thought, okay, let's go do it. And we did that also partly because all our friends were saying, no, it's hard. You guys don't really have the background to do it. I thought, let's try, let's give it a go, because we really want to showcase some beautiful places that we know of in Hong Kong. So we thought, okay, let's do it. And then the first year we had 175 runners. And that was the time before everything went electronic. I remember still getting all these paper applications and have to key in one by one. So I remember all our runners' names and details. And but we organized Hong Kong 100 during the time when trail running really experienced a boom. Trail running, the growth is 15% per year in the last decade. So the event eventually in 2020, I think we got up to 6,000 applicants for a limited number of places. And we start realizing that, hold on a minute, this is really a full-time job. And we thought about that there's so much that we get out of trail running. It was fun to organize. It made so many people have such wonderful memories and the experience and being able to connect with people from different backgrounds. And so we just decided that, okay, this is something that I'll do full time. And during that time, in 2015, I became a steering committee member of ITRA, International Trail Runners Association. And again, I really liked it because it meant that I get to meet and work with people from all around the world. And so it was fun. And last year, I was elected as the president of the association. And we also here in Hong Kong, I helped to set up a Trail Runners Association here, really to bring the whole community together, and also to give voice really to the players in trail running and try and look after trail runners' interests here. So that's a bit of my background and how my life just got completely weaved into trail running.
What a wonderful story. And I think, a number of things there. I met my wife, Tet, in Hong Kong, and it opened my eyes to what a beautiful place it is. And I think, so often we see these images of cities around the world, and I'm sure that there are many listeners here who would have no idea of how many beautiful trails and how much open space there is. I think, the global images of Hong Kong are those stunning images of Hong Kong Island. But, Tet lived in Discovery Bay, and we used to do that run and walk across to Mui Wo and sit and have a drink and catch the ferry back, and, the other islands around there. And it's just a stunning area. And yeah, it's such beautiful backyard, I guess, for these kind of things. And so, I guess that's you've embraced that. And like you say, this whole, the antidote to the stress of the corporate world. And it strikes me that in these times, many people are kind of reevaluating. There's barely a day that goes by now where I don't hear people saying, this is an opportunity. COVID's presented this incredible opportunity for me to move out of corporate life, or just reevaluate what it is that I'm doing with my life. And I guess on that note, I'm interested to hear, what's life like in Hong Kong at the moment? We were talking a little bit before we started recording. It's, you're in the middle of the fifth wave there, and things are still pretty challenging. And this whole, the world is a whole spectrum, from people that are still almost locked down to, other parts of the world that is freewheeling already back to almost normal, whatever that new normal is. But give us a little bit of a sense of life in Hong Kong at the moment, please.
Yeah, so at the moment, we are experiencing our fifth wave of the pandemic, which really is the wave where it's the first time that we have this huge number of people getting infected. The good news is that the numbers are coming down, but this wave was a shock to the whole medical system here, and now things are generally getting more under control. But because of that, we really feel like this is, wow, like that was what lockdown like in other countries were like, perhaps like even like 2 years ago, and we're actually like now experiencing it. And during these 2 years, we basically, like with events, we haven't really have like many physical events taking place. And there were some windows when we managed to have like 0 cases, then like we were allowed to have some smaller events. But generally speaking, events have not come back yet. During last year's window, the Hong Kong Marathon did manage to happen, but even with that, it was at a way reduced number. We used to have 80,000 runners over the full marathon, half marathon, and the 10K event, but last year it was like 18,000. But I think hopefully with everybody knowing more about the Omicron virus and what it means, we will be able to come back to races. I truly believe that we'll get there. And for us, because now is spring, and then in summer we don't really have events, so we are lobbying the government, and we are talking to them about reopening events in the autumn. And I think the 2 years has been like really long, and I think the government is hopeful that that things will come back for everyone. We talk about like pandemic fatigue, and it has been like a long time.
Yeah, and lots of challenges. I mean, what would you say if you could put your finger on, what the biggest challenge of the last 2 years has been for you personally in the industry in Hong Kong, apart from the obvious that there's no events happening? What has the biggest challenge been?
I think the challenge is in terms of getting the government to understand like that in a way, like with trail running, where we are in the open environment, the risk of infection is quite low compared to like you're in an indoor, like a closed, like activities, and it's not a contact sport. And we're not touching the same ball like, amongst the players, and so it was the challenge was really to get people that are not in trail running to understand what it involves and how it can get restarted. It's a long process, but I mean we are getting much more response and much more understanding, which I think is good. I mean, for the longer term as well, the government needs to understand trail running because this sport is here to stay, and we want them to be involved and to be engaged in this sport.
Yeah, and my sense is, and I've heard many conversations. I was just on a call last week with Alessio Punzi, who you obviously know. In fact, we met through Alessio, and he was at a trail run in northern Italy, and he said this amazing event in this little town with thousands of participants in it, and this industry that's kind of seems to be exploding as part of the mass participation industry, and really exciting times. And then I guess that as sometimes you become a victim of your own success. I mean, I heard stories of, the numbers even in Hong Kong starting to have to limit the number of people on trails and so on. So, we spoke about the sustainability element of of the industry. Trail running is a great example of sustainability from an environmental sustainability, and I guess that's also protecting the environment you're in. But event organizers, as the industry grows, I guess maybe in some ways the traditional mass participation industry, road running and so on, has kind of become a victim of its own success with these massive numbers of people now having to be have the numbers contracted a little bit, and making sure that you build a sustainable business model around that, I guess, is a challenge that maybe as ITRA you're helping the industry to manage as it grows.
Yes, we are working on this sustainability program, and I think you're absolutely correct, Chris. I think this is something that we must look into, and I think trail runners, we are so naturally in this environment that we love. Like this is like the outdoors. This the trails. It's like our back garden. And we naturally want to protect it. And there is a lot of, I think, possible synergies, like and work that trail runners can do to help in this movement. And we must protect our natural environment. And I think trail runners want to do that, even in like Hong Kong with our trail runners association. We have runners that go out like when they're not like doing like serious training, they will have a big rubbish bag, and then they have these like those barbecue forks, and then they just go and pick up the litter on the trails, like voluntarily, with like not asking for anything back, not asking even for recognition. You just like stumble upon them. And I think that like because trail runners just love the natural environment so much, there is a lot that we can do, and we can do it so that this is something that will actually benefit the green movement. We don't have to like just feel that, oh, we have to like work in order to just like not damage it. I think we can go even further and try and do something to help to make it even better.
Yeah. So that whole much more of a proactive rather than just undoing the not so good stuff that we've done? How do we make it even better? Leave a place in a better space than we found it, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Janet, I'm sure, having been in the industry running now for 20 years, putting these events on, having started the Hong Kong 100, you've seen many inspiring things, whether that be in COVID or before now. Is there a particular inspiring story that kind of jumps out at you'd like to leave the listeners with, please?
Well, I think for me, because of in Hong Kong, like with the COVID, that's been going on for 2 years now, like Hong Kong 100, we didn't really have a physical event for 2 years. What we did was we organized a virtual event, and which meant that we have over 2,500 runners per year, like from Hong Kong, and then plus runners overseas. So they register for the event and just to be part of Hong Kong 100, and they do the event in their own countries. And then in Hong Kong, they do the course. And I think try to find the positive side in adversity. For me, I thought it was great that like this was the first time that I got to do Hong Kong 100 myself. Like I got to run it, and because the virtual spans like a whole month, so like each weekend I was out like connecting with people and just chatting to trail runners instead of just like a couple of days when the event just flash by, like and also like it means that we managed to encourage new members into the community. Like we have got children that are like as young as like 8 or 9 years old doing it, and we have people that might not be able to do the whole event like in one go, the whole 100K, and chopped it up, and then like it's a reunion like for them with friends like every weekend. And I sometimes like even see like old schoolmates like now donning trail running shoes and hit the trails. So I think like seeing the what even in adverse situations we can do in trail running, that's something that I feel that like we kind of experienced, not really by design, but just because of how the circumstances have developed. And of course, like there are so many, because we haven't got an event but just a virtual event, there were loads of stories of really resilience, of people like just keep going out each week to try and do it until they manage to finish the event, and how restaurateurs like opening earlier and closing later just to make sure that they have support for the runners out on the trails. I think those were like really moving stories that we managed to just experience, just really because like we haven't got a physical event but a virtual one instead. And the other thing I want to mention is I read a book yesterday which is called The Happiest Man on Earth.
Oh, I've just finished that book myself Isn't that an incredible story?
It's just amazing. I think this book, for people that don't know, is by an author called Eddie Jaku, and it's just reinforces the power of love, friendship, kindness, and hope. And I would recommend it to everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a great point to end on. And yeah, what an incredible man who sadly, actually, I'm not sure if you're aware, he passed away last year in Australia at the age of, if I'm right, 94 or 95, I think, if I'm correct.
I thought it's 101.
Oh, 100, that's right. Sorry, of course. Yeah, he was over 100, 101. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, incredible story, incredible human being. What a great high to end on. And look, so many little things that you mentioned. And I ask the question often of, in our industry, are we organizing races or are we building communities? And I think so often we maybe overlook this fact that we're building communities. And what you've just shared is, this 8-year-olds, young kids getting involved, to older people, and all the way through, and restaurants getting involved and so on. And I think this, this impact that we make in terms of building communities. And yes, we have this focus on live events, and I'm sure, so many people are hungering to get back to those live events, but it's that amazing journey that we go on of bringing people together and creating impact that I think is so powerful, and I get such a buzz out of. Janet, we could talk for hours. It's been wonderful connecting, and wish you all the best in terms of getting back to live events and enjoying the journey, and most importantly, the next step, hopefully Hong Kong starting to open up, getting over the 5th wave soon, and hopefully catching up in person in the not too distant future. But thank you so much for your time. It's been great talking.
Thank you, Chris. Lovely to talk to you.